This morning's message is entitled, Interested or Invested. You know, each day, you've heard me say this, every day you live, you pay for your life with your life, and every day you live, you've invested a day of your life for your life. And the question I have to myself is, Brian, what are you getting for your investment? Today's going to be a lot about that and about our comfort zones and about moving beyond that and stop playing on the edge of life by having these conclusions that we've already come up with so nothing changes, and these routines we always live so nothing changes, and here life is bigger than anything that we can imagine when we start to open up, let go of our comfort zones, and just let go of our conclusions. The Bible, in Proverbs 3, verse 5, it says this: trust God with all your heart. All, completely. Trust the Spirit within you completely. Trust the whole universal presence, God, completely, with all your heart. And lean not on your own understanding. Don't make conclusions that you know it all. Nobody does. Nobody in this incarnation does, or they wouldn't be here. They've already evolved to their next experience. So, lean not on your own understanding, and in all your ways acknowledge God, and God will always direct your paths. Now, the biggest risk in life is not failure. The biggest risk in life is living in your comfort zone. Your comfort zone might be kind of interesting, but nothing grows in a comfort zone. You can't grow, I can't grow. We grow by risking, by giving up our conclusions on how it's supposed to be according to us, based on what we heard, and it's time to listen to something new and just reach on beyond that. I heard of like jumping conclusions and knowing everything. There were 3 archaeologists, and there was one of them who lived in New York, and he dug down 200 feet and found sort of decomposed copper wiring, and he came to a conclusion that 200 years ago, New York had telephones, some kind of communication and telephones. Well, not to be outdone, there was an archaeologist in Texas who dug down 300 feet and found the remnants of copper wire and claimed that, well, in Texas, they had communication and telephones 300 years ago. But not to be outdone, we Californians, you know, there's this great archaeologist who lived in California, and he dug down 30 feet and found absolutely nothing. And he concluded California went wireless 300 years ago. Jump to our conclusion. Now, here's something, we have this conclusion like, the world owes me, people owe me something. The world owes me something. You owe me something. I invested in you, so you owe me something. I love you, so you owe me back. The world owes you nothing. Nothing, no thing. You earn, as Dr. Ernest Holmes said in The Science of Mind, you pay for what you get with your own spiritual and mental coin. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, when we think people owe us, like after all I've done for you, you got to do it for me. No, that's conditional. That comes from need. That comes from unfulfillment inside. Jim Rohn said this about, living in our comfort zone. Don't be too casual in your approach to life. Casualness leads to casualties. When we take our relationships too casual, you know what happens? We start taking things for granted. Then we start taking people for granted. And then pretty soon the relationship starts to dissolve because there's no newness of affection, respect, support, and all that for the other person. People say, Brian, how do I make my relationship better? It was really good at the beginning of the relationship. How do I do that? Great. Behave exactly like you did at the beginning of the relationship. If 2 people behave, act, love, and are there endearing each other as they were at the beginning of the relationship will absolutely work and go the distance. Absolutely. Keep the newness in it. Then Jim says this, seek out the mentors you need who will lead you to your greatness. If you're willing to learn from others, if you're not willing to learn from others, who will you learn from? We learn from each other. We just listen to each other and nurture each other and respect and have affection, support, and acceptance of each other instead of having our already made up mind as we're pretending like we're listening and we're already going off with what we're going to answer, and then nothing happens. You know, I knew a couple years ago. His name was Corey and her name was Janet. They got together, and she was a very shy person, just very, very shy. It's just another way to be. She was very, very shy and very, very quiet, and he was very, very outgoing and very gregarious and very, you know, just out there in life. And they met each other. Now, what we do when we get in relationships, we attract what we don't have inside of us because we think we're going to get it by being around the other person. Then we get angry at them because we don't get it from the other person. We need to give what we love to ourselves. Let me say that again. You've got to give what you love in another person to yourself. Or else, if you try to get it from them, you will wind up devoid of it. So anyway, the relationship started getting, she just was getting disinterested in the relationship. And one day, she absolutely walked out, filed for divorce, and walked out. And Corey was shocked. I can't believe it. She's always been really shy. And, you know, I can't believe she did that. And my brother, my friend Charlie said, why is that you didn't think she would leave you? And he said, be honest, I thought she was afraid to. I thought I could always keep her if she's afraid of losing me. That's what happens. When we're afraid of losing somebody, we lose them. When we're afraid of life, we lose life. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, you can never change what you tolerate. It is impossible to change what you tolerate. Some people tolerate way too much, and they live this little tiny little mini life where they can have this great, big, beautiful life full of spirit. And actually, that's why Jesus said, step you out from among them and be ye therefore separate. Stop trying to be like other people, just be you. You know, Aretha Franklin, both Sheila and myself, our hearts just sunk when we found out that Aretha Franklin moved on to the other side. She was such an incredible, the Queen of Soul, the first person going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I used to, when I was in serial relationships as a kid, one of my favorite songs was Chain, 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 Chain of Fools. Chain, 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 Chain of Fools. Boy, I got fooled a lot. You know, when you act like a fool, you get fooled a lot. Absolutely. And we live and we learn, and there's something good in everything. Now, I want to share something that Brian Andrea said. He said, there are angels whose only job is to make sure you don't get too comfortable, fall asleep, and miss your life. Too comfortable, fall asleep, and miss your life. Never take anybody's appreciation for granted. Never, never, never. There is a limit to what people will put up with when you do not appreciate them. When you appreciate them with thought, word, deed, action, prayer, the endearment just stays there with all of us. Aretha Franklin, you can't put up with these, don't tolerate. They told her at one time, you know, Aretha, music is really changing. And yes, you're the Queen of Soul. And, you know, you might as well retire because there are just too many different kinds of music coming on now. And you think maybe, do you think about retiring? And she said, no, never. I have been singing and playing the piano since I was 9 years old. That's my calling. That's my gift from God. And I'm not going to give it up. And she said something. She said, if music's going to change, I'm going to change with it. And she did. She was amazing. Her, virtually, absolutely amazing. And she said something I love. When they said, you know, We don't think you're going to make a comeback, Aretha. She did this. Don't say Aretha is making a comeback because I've never been gone. You've never been gone. You just you don't start over, you start where you left off. Absolutely, you learn something from everything. I just love it. Now, you know, sometimes I get afraid of my fear. And we shouldn't be afraid of our fear because we shouldn't let our fear scare us. Because our fear tells you when something is worth it. You want something and it's worth it. And fear says it's worth it. So listen to your fears. Invite them in for dinner. Absolutely. Take them through the drive-thru with you if that's your thing. Absolutely. Now, I was so moved. And I know all of you saw this. Pavarotti was going to sing at the Grammys, and Sting came out and said, "We are so sorry. Pavarotti has come sick, and he really can't perform." The house was packed, absolutely packed. And Aretha Franklin was called to backstage, and they asked her, "Aretha, is it possible that you could sing an opera?" And she said, "Well, I never have, but let me look at the music." She took 15 minutes looking at that operetta, that opera piece that Pavarotti was going to sing. Go like this if you heard her do it. Wasn't that amazing? That was holy. That was holy, holy, holy. Lord God Almighty flowing through her. It was amazing. People were struck. People had healings. People came out of themselves and they just wouldn't stop applauding her. Amazing, amazing woman. Why? Because she didn't mess around with the edges of life. She put it to the metal head on. We don't have to be Aretha Franklin. All we have to do is be ourselves. Everybody's got a certain size life, and the certain size life that you're in, where there's room for growth, is the perfect size life for you, for me, and for all of us. Now, if we would trade our expectations for appreciation, life would become much larger for us. When you're appreciating life, you can't be angry, you can't feel poor, you can't feel unloved, you can't feel wrong, you can't feel incomplete. When you're feeling and allowing yourself to experience gratitude for the world, for this wonderful country, for our children, for our wives, for our husbands, for our mother, for our father, for bringing us here to... It doesn't matter. What matters is that you look around and appreciate, just like those sunflowers, that we appreciate them. Absolutely. G.K. Chesterton said something, I love it. It's very, very short, but it's very, very powerful. He said this. He said, "I would maintain that thanks are the highest form of thought." Thanks are the highest form of thought. You know what I noticed? The less I have Brian on my mind, and me on my mind, and what's up for me, and what I'm going through, and the more I put my mind, my heart, my feelings on other people, the happier I am. The more I'm thinking about myself, the less happy I am. That's why people get into self-pity, self-doubt, afraid all the time. They're all about me, me, me. Gee, the whole world's watching me. No, the whole world doesn't care about you. Not really. Not if you're going to pull out like that. Not if you're not going to participate. The world cares about you when you're out there in front of people and participating. Ernest Holmes, in the Science of Mind textbook, said this: "An attitude of gratitude is the most salutary, is most salutary and bespeaks that we are now living in the kingdom of heaven." Feeling gratitude makes you feel emotionally stable in unstable conditions. You don't live in what's going on out there. I live on what's going on in here. So when what's going on out there is all unstable. I mean, right now there's so much division in this country, more division than there's ever been. Politically and a lot of other ways, and we're looking at things that really are challenged, like the environment, like cleaning up the ocean, cleaning up the air, cleaning it up so our grandchildren's grandchildren can still breathe the air, can still eat the food. It's amazing, and it's all possible, and it's all there, and it all get handled. Gratitude. You know, true story. I heard of a young lady, and she loves surfing. And she just loves surfing. 16 years old, she loves surfing. And her mother would say, you know, I worry about you so much in surfing. You could get eaten by a shark. You know, I read this thing about where somebody tipped their surfboard and they broke their neck. And, you know, all these things. And I worry about you so much. Please hear me. Do yourself a favor. Do not worry about your children. Worrying about your children is a down payment that something bad's going to happen for them. Worrying about anybody is a down payment that you're investing. You're not just interested, you're investing that something's bad to happen. And give it to Spirit. Give it to God. That's why it says in the Bible, give all of your sins, your mistakes to God. Give all of your cares and your worries to God. Anyway, she's out here surfing one day, slipped off her board and hit the reef on Terramar, Terramar Middles they're called, and she broke her thigh. Her thigh. And she went to the hospital. As somebody who's in this philosophy, faith, and way of life that we're in together, she went to the hospital and she thought she'd see a practitioner, a person who's trained in how to pray for people. So she goes see the practitioner. The practitioner asks her, what's your main concern? And she said, well, I told her, I worry about her so much, and the very thing I was worried about happened. She's now in the hospital with a broken thigh, and I told her I would, and so, and she was going to go see her. What do you think I should do? She said, what would be the best thing to do? What would you like somebody to say to you if you just broken your thigh playing on a surfboard that you love to do that gives you life and aliveness? Well, the first thing I would say is, it's not your fault. Great. How about is when you go to see your daughter, tell her how proud you are of her, that she's so athletic, that she takes care of her body, that she eats right, that she sleeps right, and she does all the right thing, and she's got this wonderful sport that keeps her in shape, and it's not your fault. It just happens. It's not us to figure out. It's us to give it to God and let God do the healing. She went to see her daughter, and her daughter was kind of cowered down in the bed, and she said, hi, honey, first thing I want to tell you is it's really not your fault. I worry too much, and I shouldn't worry about you. I'm just giving it to God. That daughter, that relationship healed in a way like never before, and the distance caused by the police near me, guilty for feeling like it's her fault every time she made a mistake, and she had a history of it with her mother, that was all healed just in those words. It's not your fault, daughter dear. These things just happen, and it's not ours to figure out why. It's ours to get it all healed. Now, today what I'm going to suggest is that you get on the, investments. Get on the Pray As You Go plan. By the Pray As You Go plan is, instead of getting up in the morning, I'm busy, got to do this, got to do that, no, stop. You're just really not that important, and really neither am I. There's 7.5 billion people on the planet, and we think we're the most important, and we've got to get something done. Now, if you would sit on the edge of your bed, or on wherever you sit, and just empty your mind, and just breathe in love, and breathe out fear, for 10 minutes, and then do some affirmative prayer. God, I know I'm loved. God, I know I am happy. God, I know I am powerful. God, I know I'm on my way to greatness. I'm feeling greatness now. And give yourself that, and then go out and do what you want to do. Change your whole day, because it changes your mind, it changes your attitude, and when your mind is changed and your attitude is changed, different things come into your reality than the closed mind. Your mind's like a parachute. It only works when it's open. You don't want to jump to conclusion in the parachute, right? That's called jumping to conclusion when your parachute doesn't open. Now, Stephen R. Covey said this, and I love it. The main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. If we would only, instead of, I'm going to work God into my routine. Instead of trying to work God into your routine, work your routine into God. Work your routine into Spirit. There's more than to me than this wonderful personality. I invented this stuff when I came on this earth by the people I listened to and my peers. Your personality is not who you are. Your personality changes all the time with what you learn. Who you are is Spirit. Pure and perfect, dynamic, loving, lovable, pure Spirit. And you have the choice to choose what you will think, what you will feel, how you love, and what you do with your life. It's awesome when I think about it. Absolutely awesome. Stephen wrote this, and I love it. He said, be patient with yourself. Growth is tender. It's holy ground. There is no greater investment. Wow. There is no greater investment. Being happy does not come from getting what you think you want. Being happy comes from feeling happy with what you've got and know there are possibilities. You know, the Bible talks about follow the light, be the light. I asked Dr. Sheila if she could find sunflowers, and she found that image and put it up there. She's amazing. I want to acknowledge you, Sheila. This about the time I think I can't love you enough. There's always more because you really do inspire me, absolutely. These sunflower seeds, when we first moved from Ireland to America as immigrants, we moved into Los Angeles, and we had these neighbors, Mr. and Mrs. Koenig. They'd both been from Germany, and they had no children, and all of their family had been killed in Auschwitz, the Nazi concentration camps. And she was such a happy person. Even after her husband passed on, I said, you know, I was real close to her. I was only 12 years old, but we were really, really close. And I said, Mrs. Koenig, I said, you know, I love to come over here and eat the hardtack bread that you make and all that, and all that, but aren't you sad that your husband has died? And she said, oh, I'm very, very sad, but I'm happy because I know that he's in the light now. And she asked me, she said, have you ever noticed my sunflower patch? She had a huge patch just like this, beautiful sunflowers. And she said, I want to teach you something about the light, about God. And I said, what? And she said, I want you to be back here at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Came back, and the sun hadn't come up yet. And all the sunflowers were facing east. Every one of them, the big ones, the little ones, all facing east. And she said, now, I want you to come back at 12:30. I came back at 12:30. They're facing this way. And I go, they're alive, Mrs. Koenig. They're changing. They're alive. They were looking this way, now they're looking that way. And she said, oh, you haven't seen it yet. I want you to come right before the sun goes down. Right before the sun goes down. Now, children have a really wonderful perception. And you know, they call it the circadian rhythm and all that stuff, the rhythm of the birds. How do the birds, the swallows know to go back to Capistrano? How do the fish know to come in certain areas? It's amazing. It is the mind of God, not being able to, you know, scientists know everything, but they still don't know why your thumbnails and your fingernails grow. They can, you can look at it chemically, but they don't know what gives it life. God gives it life. God, when you're asleep, God takes your heart. God takes care of everything. Anyway, she said, come back in the evening time. I came back in the evening time, and they were all faced the west. And I watched them. The bigger ones, I could see real well. You could actually see them move very, very slowly until they were all facing the west. And she said, Brian, the reason I'm so happy is because I'm always facing the light. Be like the sunflower. Always face the light. Put your attitude on God. Put your actions on God. Put your love on God, your family, this country, and what you came here to do, and your life will always work out better than all right. I love you. I'm in it with you, and so it is. Thank you.